Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here. There's one thing I have to do before I get started. To my mother, this is just like being on TV. So, hi, Mom. So with that, we can kind of get on with the show. But so what I want to talk to you about is the concept of place as fate. And it's a concept that everybody in this room, everybody in our community should be enraged by. Everybody should be incensed by the concept of your place being determinative of your fate. But sadly, in this city, and many other cities across the country, but this is the one I care about, that's the situation. That's what we're facing. And so when I say place as fate, it's something that I want you to leave here feeling the way I feel about. Saying to yourself, that's just unfair. There's nothing right about that. So if you leave here and you feel like that, then maybe I've done my job. What we're talking about a lot of times can be kind of summed up with one pretty simple question. What's your zip code? Where do you live? What's your neighborhood? And you may say, why are those questions important? What does that matter? Well, what matters about that is if you live in 68110, 68111, parts of 68104, I can tell you a lot about your life without even meeting you. I can tell you a lot about your life right now, and more disturbingly, I can tell you a lot about your life 10 years from now. What I mean by that is, if you live in 68111, 68110, I know that you probably go to a failing school. I know that you're far more likely to be the victim of a violent crime. I know that you probably live in housing that contributes to health problems. All these things are true. And the sad part about it is the correlation between that and those negative outcomes is extraordinarily strong. And it's tremendously difficult to break that cycle. That's the injustice of geography. That's the crux of what I'm talking about. So this is my son. And so this is my pride and joy. His name is Othello Saeed Gibran. And he's obviously my pride and joy if I figured out a way to work him into this talk today. But I promise you I'm doing that for a purpose. So my son is everything to my wife and I. We do everything we can to ensure that the start he has in life far exceeds ours. And we had good starts in life. We send him to an expensive daycare. We read to him. He's got three grandparents, two of whom right now have a bet on whose name he's going to say first. He's completely supported. He's completely loved. You would love this kid. The problem and the simple fact that remains despite all those true things I just told you about my son is that my son didn't do one single thing, nothing, to deserve the start that he's getting in life. Not a thing. He didn't pull himself up by his bootstraps in utero, as Herman Cain would have him do. I'm sorry, Herman, but we're talking about reality here. So my son didn't do anything to deserve this lot in life. The most troubling aspect of that is that the converse is also true. That kid who grows up on 40th Ave, who grew up in Pleasant View homes, who grew up in Hilltop homes, Spencer homes, any of these major housing projects, any of these dilapidated neighborhoods, that little boy, little girl didn't do anything to deserve their fate either. Yet, as a community, that child's fate and this child who grows up in an impoverished neighborhood to a 14-year-old mother, they're expected to accomplish the same things. Yet we know from birth that because of their location, because of their neighborhood, because of their environment, that child stands nowhere near the chance that my child stands for success. That's what we should be outraged about. So first of all, we're going to talk about the easy stuff, all right? This is the stuff that we know works. The stuff we know is replicable. We know what causes neighborhoods to fall into disrepair. We know what causes neighborhoods to fail. Concentrated poverty. Whoever thought it was a good idea to warehouse huge numbers of poor people in congested, dense developments was extremely misguided. We know about those outcomes. We know what happens when you do that. We understand what happens when people grow up in substandard housing. We have housing here in Omaha that actively contributes to health problems for its residents. Houses that actively harm the people that live in it. You combine that with failing schools, with schools that don't begin to address all the problems, all the issues, all the challenges that kids from neighborhoods like these face on an everyday basis. We know these things. We understand how it works. We also understand how to fix those things. Now, I lied to you when I said this is the easy stuff. I admit, I lied to you about that. Because this stuff isn't easy. But it's easier than what we're going to get to. We know that if you create a cradle-to-college educational pipeline where you start with high-quality early childhood education, just like my son is getting, and you follow that up with high-quality elementary education, and you follow that up with high-quality high school education, we understand the impact that that has on families, neighborhoods, and communities as a whole. But we know that if you just stop at high-quality early childhood education and that child goes to a terrible elementary school, you've wasted that investment. And you might as well have not done anything differently. So we understand that if you create this cradle-to-college educational pipeline, you're creating a difference in that community. We also know that by diffusing that concentrated poverty through the introduction of mixed-income housing, we know that we see the outcomes that are synonymous with concentrated poverty go away. We understand that neighborhoods instantly stabilize when you remove concentrated poverty. We also know that comprehensive supportive services are necessary. Access to health care, access to job training, access to the types of support services that can help somebody live a fuller, more enriched life. Public transportation should be a hot issue here. So we know that these three things, not independently, but working in concert, lead to healthy neighborhoods. We understand that. It's hard, but we know that these things work when working in conjunction. So now we're going to get to the difficult stuff. Now, that other stuff was hard, but it's doable. It's been replicated. We know it can be done. That's why I say that's the easy part. The hard part is changing the dynamic of a community, changing the mindset of a community, helping a community understand that the one part that makes this entire project go, this entire process go, is having the will as a community to face up to the fact that we live in a city that commits a great injustice by turning its back on the least among us. You have to face that. We have to, as a community, face that. That's the hard part, creating that will to say, yes, this is what's going on in our community, and we have the will to stay with it and do something about that. We live in a city right now that's feeling pretty good about itself. So Kiplinger's, Fortune, Forbes, best place to live, best place to raise a family, strongest economy, great job market. Not for everybody. Not for everybody. And if you truly want to be great as a city, those things have to be true for everybody. Those opportunities have to exist for everybody. That's the hard part. So when it comes down to it, these are the two things that I'm trying to get to merge. I wake up every single day and I fight the same fight personally. The exact same fight. I fight every day not to be a hypocrite. Every day. And every day I fail at that. I wake up and I say, this is the idealized Othello Meadows. The guy I want everybody to see. The guy I want to be, right? All the while I know this is the real Othello Meadows. And what I do every day is try and drag these two polar opposites together so that the real Othello Meadows and the idealized Othello Meadows are the same person. The same person. It doesn't matter that I lose that fight every day as long as those two sides get closer and closer. Omaha is in the exact same place. Omaha is in the exact same place in its history. We have our values here, the idealized version of what we want Omaha to be. And over here we have highest concentration of African American kids living in poverty. Random street violence that's out of control. This is Omaha too. And what our challenge is as a community is to bring idealized Omaha together with the real Omaha so that the Omaha we read about on the back of those magazines and on the airplane and all those positive articles we read about how great we are, so that we can look in the mirror and say, we're not hypocrites. Our values match our actions at every level. And it's hard. It's difficult stuff. It's not the kind of stuff you go out and do in 2 years, 3 years. It's the kind of stuff that takes generations. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start at some point. And you get a lot of pushback doing this kind of work. You get a lot of people that say, you know what, Othello, no matter what city you go to, there are going to be people in that city. There are going to be areas of that city that don't thrive, that don't reach their full potential. And I just don't accept that. This is my hometown. And I don't care what's failed in Cleveland or failed in Camden. I'm just interested in what can happen here. And so if it's been done in Atlanta, if it's been done in New Orleans, then I damn sure know we can do it here in Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you, guys.